Okay, take a look at your hand for a sec. Now, think about your phone. It's probably right there, isn't it? What if I told you that phone, it's not just a tool, it's an actual, literal piece of your mind? Yeah, you heard me right. In this explainer, we're going to dig into this wild idea that your mind doesn't actually stop at the edge of your skull. I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But this one question, it totally shakes up our most basic idea about ourselves, that you are just locked up inside your brain. So to really get how your mind can kind of leak out into the world, we first have to talk about how your brain actually works. And trust me, it's not what you've been All right, so let's start here. Before we can get to how the mind extends out, we've got to look in. And we need to throw out some of the old ideas we have about the brain. See, it turns out your brain isn't just a passive observer, just taking in the world. Nope, it's the active architect of your world. You know, for the longest time, the common view was that the brain is like a camera. It just passively records whatever it sees and hears. But that's not it at all. The new view is way more exciting. Your brain is actually a prediction machine. It is constantly, and I mean constantly, making its best guess about what's out there based on everything you've ever experienced. And the only reason it pays attention to your senses is to see if its guesses were right and to make corrections. And we see proof of this everywhere. I mean, think about those weird optical illusions or those garbled audio clips you hear online. At first, it's just a bunch of random blobs or static, right? Meaningless. But then someone tells you, hey, look for the cow. And bam, the moment your brain gets that little hint, that prediction, it literally constructs the experience for you. All of a sudden, you see the cow. Your perception isn't just happening to you, it's an act of creation. Okay, so how does the brain juggle its own guesses with what's actually happening in the real world? Well, it uses a nifty little trick called precision weighting. The best way to think about it is like a volume knob. On one side, you've got the brain's own predictions, and on the other, you've got the raw data coming in from your eyes and ears. The brain is always adjusting this knob. And sometimes, when that knob gets cranked a little too high on the prediction side, you get a really common and kind of weird feeling, and it probably involves your phone. You know what I'm talking about, right? You felt your phone buzz in your pocket, but then you check, and there's nothing there. That's phantom vibration syndrome, and it's a perfect example of this in action. You're just so used to your phone buzzing, you're expecting it, that your brain's prediction engine goes ahead and creates the sensation for you. It's basically a tiny, harmless hallucination, all because that prediction knob was turned up just a little too high. Okay, so we've established the brain as a prediction machine. Now, what happens when that machine starts predicting the tools we use all the time, like our phones? Well, this is where things get really wild. This is where the mind starts to leak out. This idea comes from two philosophers, Andy Clark and David Chalmers, and they came up with something called the Parity Principle. The logic is actually pretty simple, but the implications are huge. It basically says, if something out in the world, say a notebook or your phone, does a job that we would normally call thinking if it happened inside your head, then we should just go ahead and say it is part of your mind. To really hammer this point home, they created this classic thought experiment. Let me introduce you to Inga and Otto. So Inga wants to go to a museum. She thinks for a second, remembers it's on 53rd Street, and off she goes. Simple. Now, Otto also wants to go to the same museum. But Otto has Alzheimer's, so he relies on a little notebook where he writes down important stuff. He pulls it out, reads, the museum is on 53rd Street, and off he goes. Now think about it. For both of them, the information was easy to get and reliable. Functionally, Otto's notebook is doing the exact same job as Inga's biological memory. And that leads to a really profound question. Is that notebook a literal part of Otto's mind? According to the extended mind thesis, the answer is a clear, resounding yes. That notebook isn't just some tool he's using. It has become a real, physical part of his mind. His memory has literally extended out into the world.
And look, this isn't just some weird thought experiment about memory loss. The argument, especially from Andy Clark, is that we are all what he calls natural-born cyborgs. He thinks we've actually evolved to merge our minds with the technology we create.
There's this great saying that captures it perfectly. You don't feel the hammer, you feel the nail being struck. This gets at a key idea called transparency. When you get really, really good with a tool, you kind of stop noticing the tool itself, right? A skilled carpenter isn't thinking about the hammer in their hand, they're feeling the nail going into the wood. The tool just disappears and becomes an extension of their body, a direct line to what they want to do.
And you've totally experienced this yourself with your smartphone.
At first, you're just fumbling around trying to learn the interface. But pretty soon, you don't even think about it. Its behavior becomes totally predictable. Your prediction-loving brain knows exactly what's going to happen when you swipe or tap. And that's when the tool becomes transparent. You stop thinking about the phone and just think about the information you want. Your brain doesn't see it as a separate thing anymore. It just sees it as a reliable part of you. Okay, and this is where everything we've talked about snaps together. The two big ideas, the predictive brain and the extended mind, they aren't separate concepts. The predictive brain is the engine that makes the extended mind possible. They're basically two sides of the very same coin. Think about it. The reason a tool can feel like a part of you is because your brain is a prediction engine. When your phone responds instantly to your touch, or when a high-tech prosthetic moves exactly the way you want it to, it's because your brain's predictive model has gotten so good, so fast, that there's basically zero error. It just absorbs the tool. It folds it right into its internal map of what counts as me. And here's the really incredible part. A switch happens. Your brain stops wasting energy predicting the tool itself and starts predicting the world through the tool. You're not thinking about how to swipe on the map app anymore. You're just thinking about where you're going. It creates this totally seamless loop, and that boundary between you and your tech, it just melts away. So let's pause for a second. If we actually accept this idea that our minds aren't just locked up in our heads, then wow, that has some really big, maybe even unsettling consequences for things like ethics, what it means to harm someone, and our relationship with our own technology. So let's go back to our friend Otto one last time because his situation really highlights the ethical stakes here. Okay, if that notebook is genuinely a part of his mind, part of his memory, then what happens if someone steals it? It's not just theft anymore, is it? It's more like a physical assault, a cognitive assault. You'd be causing him actual cognitive damage, kind of like giving him a brain injury. And that completely reframes how we should think about someone stealing our phone, which holds so much of our digital life. This quote here really nails the big takeaway. The idea is that we need to stop thinking of ourselves as just these biological creatures that happen to use external tools. Instead, we're more like these integrated systems, biotechnological wholes. Our very experience of reality is built piece by piece right alongside our technology. So here's a thought for you. The next time you reach for your phone, whether it's to look up a fact, figure out how to get somewhere, or just text a friend, ask yourself this. Are you just picking up a tool, or are you, in a very real and literal sense, picking up a piece of your own mind? Because that line between where you end and your technology begins, it's a whole lot blurrier than we ever imagined.